Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
And we get the back view of him. And I mean, it's just a mega.
52 yards is a long shot. Magnum PI, what we named him. No idea.
Just a magnum.
Yeah, just a magnum.
Come on cam last year, we said probably 150, mid 150.
Yeah.
Same doe from the morning come out with that 9-pointer.
Here steps out this 90-inch 8-pointer. You're like,
I'm like, okay, well, there's still a buck back there grunting.
Yeah.
And then out steps like another 90-inch 8-pointer. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm like, deer, right there.
Yeah, like
and he's already
yards.
30 yards.
Yeah.
He was literally 5 yards from the base of the tree. Could have been, had a buck down at 1:40 in the afternoon, back there deep on public. 3 does come out pretty early. It was like 245, 24-yard shot, sent the combat veteran, and I tell you what, man, dude, it just smoked. We always get so jacked up when the other person kills. It's just almost like we got it done.
Yeah. And when you killed that doe, I was like, hell yeah, man.
And we come down here to Missouri.
I asked Homie one more time. I'm like, is it a good buck? And he goes, yeah, real good, solid buck. I'm like, all right, boom. And the deer just drops. Sure. Super special to me.
Whitetail Legacy Podcast, bringing you back to the hunt and leaving a legacy. Baller Rut.
Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, coming in your ear holes. And this week, we're going to talk about whitetail. I bet you guessed it. We got Johnny Stewart on tonight, and we're talking getting ready for the rut. It seems like a long ways away, but the months are just blowing by, guys. Johnny, he runs a construction company, doesn't get to hunt a lot in October. So we're talking about what he's doing now to get ready for the rut, what he's doing in October. And the guy's just a wealth of knowledge, been hunting so long, super successful year after year, putting other people on deer, killing deer himself, hunting multiple different states. So it's really awesome just to have him come on the podcast and just let him rip and just talk about whitetail. A lot of good analogies in this, a lot of good one-liner tips, that really could set in and change the way someone hunts this season. So I'm excited to get in this episode. First, we're going to get into the people that make this possible. We're going to get off the show. You have Last Breath TV, homie.
Yeah, season is getting ready to drop on their YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. We got 14 episodes going to be coming out, so very pumped for that. And don't forget, if you want to watch this podcast, you can also do that on their YouTube channel. It'll be rolling out here shortly, a few days after we release here on Prime Rib Day. So
you can see all my workout stuff. Looks like we got a sex swing in the background hanging out there. It's actually just a cable rope and it's my makeshift weighted pull-up thing. That's what it looks. It looks like a sex swing in the background.
Looks sweet.
Just so the people on Zoom know.
All right, let's say Tuesday at 8:17.
Yeah.
All right, Friday night at 8:17. You need to be out here trying that thing out.
Yeah.
Put the kids to bed and let's get it in.
I got this setup going on. I got 2 screws. Seems solid.
2 inch-and-a-half screws.
Yeah. Seems solid. We're gonna try it out. All right. Anyway, let's get into the trail cam tip of the week from Exodus Trail Cams. I just want to go over a list. We've been getting messages about trail cams and why they aren't working. I actually did a TikTok about it. I had a couple text messages. Go through and just check your basic stuff, because these trail cameras, that is most of the time what the problem is. It's your batteries. You could buy that pack of batteries, and there could literally be one battery in that pack that is bad, and you put all those batteries in there, and you're like, oh, trail camera's shit. Mm-hmm. But really, you got brand new batteries out of the pack, but one of them are bad. And you put that trail cam in the corner and don't think it works, but in actuality, it's just not that bad. So a $3 battery tester will fix that. Formatting your SD cards, super simple fix. Locking the SD card, I've done that in the past. Some of the trail cams are making it where you can't insert them when they're locked now. I think that would be cool if they could figure out some way where it would pop up like lock card or something. Mm-hmm. But if you put that card in there, it's going to say, oh, you're good, dude, but it's not going to let you write any of those files down. Formatting your cameras, that's something we had to update new firmware on your cameras. That's something we had to do with. And another thing that I had problems with the Tascos was the the connector. Remember I had the corrosion on the connectors where the batteries were on the top?
Yep.
And I had to wire brush that and get that fixed. Fix
we
the
had
camera.
to swap out that tray.
Yeah, we had to swap out that tray.
Camera wouldn't turn on.
So the camera won't turn on. Batteries are good. Everything's good. Check that the 2 connection points. Some of them are 2, some of them are 4. Check those connection points on your battery tray. Make sure those are good. That's something that's easily over replaced, and you throw away, a couple $100 trail camera, $80 trail camera, $30 Tasco, whatever it is. It's still, you can get it out in the woods. But yeah, the pile over there looks like
it's not getting
really
any
good.
smaller yet.
Yeah, but those are just some simple tips you guys can do to try to make sure that you're getting everything out of your trail camera and you're not getting frustrated, because there's nothing worse than turning your trail cam. You're gonna go take it out there and the shit ain't working. So there's some simple fixes for you.
So I was actually just talking to Jake last night about that. We recorded a podcast for Trail Cam Radio talking about increasing the fleet of your cameras. So going from 9 cameras that we had 4 years ago all the way up to 30 plus that we're running now. So good conversation with him, and it's always a good podcast.
I had some shit come
Trail
up.
Cam Radio.
Literally shit.
Literal
shit. If homie hasn't said it on this podcast, I have the junkest stomach in the game, guys. My gut is terrible. The first 30 minutes in the tree stand in the morning is a battle if I'm going to shit my pants or shoot a deer.
And it's literally
it's on the edge every time. So
guy shoots a deer quick as shit out there.
Yeah. I'm either shooting it 4 minutes into shooting light, or I'm shitting my pants 4 minutes into shooting light. One or the other. But anyways, homie crushed that episode. If you want to go check it out, just get a little more intel on the trail cam game that we're running and what we've learned over the years doing it. So, we got anything else?
No, that's it, man.
All right, let's get into the show. All right, we got John Stewart on the. And you said I would nail it. Yeah. We got John Stewart. You psyched me out, man.
I did.
We got him on the Zoom video. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, spend some time with us. Excited to pick your brain about, what the rut and what you can do in October to prepare for the rut. Right now it's still the summer or whatever, but we were just talking before this. It's whitetail time, and this is a time that you want to be thinking about what you're going to do in the rut, planning your vacation for the rut. And we got cams hung right now for late October, November. Like, we're like, this cam, we walked in there and we were like, this place looks like shit right now.
Compared to what it was when we were hunting there early November, it was like we weren't even in the right spot.
Yeah. Homie was like, is this the right spot? I'm like, yeah, there's the tree right there. This is where we had the cam. It just, there's no deer there right now. It's crazy. So, yeah, we run in the mobile cam, and there's like does and maybe a fawn every now and then. And then October, November, it's on fire. It's just crazy how stuff switches like that. But just for our listeners, give a quick introduction of who you are and kind of your track record and what you do.
Oh, yeah. Big into whitetail hunting, bow hunting. I'm 42. I grew up hunting, gun hunting first, 12 years old. I live in southwest Pennsylvania, just below Pittsburgh. Kind of hunted just around this area as I was younger, like kind of broken up farm country, some old strip mine, this and that, whatever. But I was just always fascinated about the deer and whitetail hunting, deer hunting. But, younger I was into squirrel hunting. I used to do all that and fishing, but I kind of, as older I got further away from that and just kept studying the whitetails. But, got into bow hunting more around 14, 15 years old. And, I was hooked, and it took me a few years to actually tag a deer with my bow. I think I was probably 17, and it was just like, and it's a mental game. And at that point in my life, it was like, I had some misses, and I remember, man, pulling my bow back and my arrow shaking, my aluminum arrow hitting the rest, making noise. It's just, the adrenaline's there, and that's what it's all about. But yeah, it's kind of, finally got my deer, a buck with a bow around 17. And, that kind of helped my confidence, always, when you get a deer or shoot a few deer and have success, it kind of is a confidence booster. But, just kind of really dove into whitetails and started, into my 20s, traveling to other states, not strictly public land like I am now, but traveled to other states, maybe knocked on doors, but did some public land. And, I shot my, in my early 20s, I shot a big buck around where I live, and people around here saw, you're just a fluke, that was luck, but I studied that deer. And then next year I shot another good one, and there wasn't many good deer in the area where I live. Like 120 was big. And so that's what, I thought was a big buck, a lot of yearlings, 2-year-olds, and anything over that was just like, wow, but, so yeah, I just got, into bigger whitetails. The more deer I've shot, I just kind of started, focusing on the mature whitetails, because they are almost a different species, to say. But in through my 20s, and then into my 30s, I kind of strictly went to public land hunting, probably mid 30s, I'd say, early to mid 30s. So pretty strict on just public land, probably the last, I guess, 10 years roughly. Different states, usually hunt 3 to 5 states a year. In the last few years with my occupation, I have an excavation business. I haven't been able to do it like in my early 30s and that, but I still get out there, and I spent enough time that I got the knowledge that to help me when I don't have as much time. But yeah, so pretty much public land deer hunter. Just I like the challenge of hunting public land. To me, it's way different. Like I categorize it, just a lot of people do private and public. And to me, it's if you shoot a deer on public land, because to me, 100% fair chase, as some people say, was like, to me, I look at it as 100% of the people are allowed to go after that animal. Where on private land, I'm not saying I'm not putting anything like that's my choice. To me, that's the most challenging thing out there, is to hunt a deer that everybody else is going after, and you can't just read the sign and know what the pressure is. I mean, like on private land, you could just read sign and hunt according. But when you're on public ground, you got that other unknown variable, which is the pressure that people put on the animal and how it affects them, which really does affect them. And you have to deal with that and learn that it's not just about reading sign. I feel like it's knowing how they're affected by the people out there hunting, even you yourself, getting in there and putting pressure on them, and know how they react. And so, yeah, I pretty much a public land deer hunter. And like I said, hunting different states. And I live near Pittsburgh. So most of the states, and I'm like a lot of other guys, I got to travel, 2 to 3 hours. And yeah, I do hunt in PA, but it's 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours north. And some people will message me, oh man, it's maybe nice to have, bucks there in PA. I'm like, hey, I got to drive 3 hours to hunt, and it's how bad do you want it? I'll drive to Iowa for 12 hours to put a couple cameras out and drive home. It's like, hey, somewhere within 10 hours of you're going to find a good deer. And if that's what you got to do to make it happen, you just do whatever it takes. How bad, it's like anything in life. You want it. You want to get out there, and, people say, man, you drive 12 hours. I said, yeah, I'll drive 12 hours and put cameras out for a day and turn around and drive home. No big deal. But I want to know what's going on. Since it's so far away, that's your best bet, is to hang cameras, and we rely on cameras a lot these days.
Yeah.
And they're a great tool,
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on. I want to touch a couple things that we were mostly private. I had done some public, and then we switched the last few years to a lot more public. And you had mentioned, the hot sign, and that's something that we've never discussed on here with public guys. Someone that's just starting, that is something you need to think about. When you find all this sign and you're walking, someone else probably knows that sign's there too. That spot could have been hunted 10 times already, and you have no idea. But like you said, on private ground, when we see hot sign, like when our scrape tree's fired up, we know no one's been in that spot, because we haven't hunted. But just like that sign we found last year, we were on the fence like, man, this is kind of right where a lot of people would be and see, because we knew there's hunters around the area close. Like, should we set up on this or not? But it was so, like, in your face. I just felt like people were there. People were on that sign. But that, like I said, that's something that we had never stated on here. So someone that's, getting into public and you find that hot sign that people think about, like you said, you also got to think about, is there other people hunting this? Is there stands close by? Do other people know about this sign? Or is it like the last 2 days you're the first person in there and you found it. So I thought that was just something good to bring up. But the reason I had you on is because I really like your Instagram, in your trail cam pics. You're sharing different states, a lot of bucks, and you're kind of breaking down the deer, like a lot of them, it's hot, they're nocturnal. I like that kind of stuff, that information, because I like to feed back to what I'm seeing also. And a lot of people won't share trail cam pictures, and I get it. That's fine. That's their thing. But it's valuable, even if it's a trail cam picture from 4 years ago, and you can just say something about that buck and mention a little bit. It's valuable to guys like me that read that post and go, oh, yeah, okay, that worked out. Or, oh, yeah, it was hot, and he's getting all nighttime pics too. Or, we tried to do, last year we tried to do the moon phase, and if it had any correlation with anything on cam, and we were watching a bunch of people, and they were saying stuff, and we weren't seeing anything that was remotely close to what they had going on. So it's cool to be able to connect with people that do share that kind of stuff. So if you guys aren't following his Instagram, follow it. I know that you were hunting and your buddy shot a really nice buck during rifle season. They put out a video on that. That was pretty sweet. Yeah, that was pretty sweet deer. And you had some trail cam pictures of that deer, didn't you? Or some trail cam video of him?
I followed that deer for 3 or 4 years. And actually there was so that was this 2020 season, but in 2019, I had a trail cam picture of him, and I posted it. You can look on Instagram. After Bo shot his deer, I went back, and then my caption was like, I know where this deer lives. I just need someone to post, and I'll push it to him. Fast forward a year.
Nice.
I took Bo in there, and people were like, man, aren't you mad that he shot your deer? It's like, it's not my deer. I don't got my name on it. I said, that's just one less deer I got to worry about.
Yeah, that's kind of the situation we're in. Once they're dead, you're like, all right, I can focus on other stuff. I ain't got this thing in the back of my head burning a hole in that pocket. But I wanted to have you on. Like you had said, you run your construction business. You don't have a lot of time in the October. You are a rut hunter. You're hunting PA and multiple states. So what are you doing in October to prepare yourself for that time that you do have to hunt in November?
Well, I think the biggest thing, even like you guys are talking about now, in August into September, let's back up to maybe there, to where we're at. I'll try to get cameras out in the summertime, just maybe in a spot where I think I might catch deer in the summer, feed and browse, whatever, and food. And then I'd like to get those cameras and maybe do a little shift right about, mid-August to kind of, like you guys said, prepare for maybe leave them cameras till you get in there and hunting in October. But the reason I kind of do it maybe that time, mid-August, is I kind of feel like if you start putting a lot of time in the woods in September, as you get closer to the season, I feel like the deer live by association to where they shed that velvet and the daylight's getting shorter, and they're associating that with maybe hunting season and humans being in the woods. I don't want to get in there too much in September. Not saying I won't, but I'll just be a little more cautious. But, so get some cameras out in August and let them soak through, September, when deer, I feel they get them hard horns, and it's like, they want to go out and visit different areas and see who's around and show off what they got this year. And that's how I see these deer living. And so you'll get deer moving to different areas and catch some different deer, but also preparing for like the fall, where they might be packing on some pounds, whatever they're feeding on, and then preparing for the rut scrapes and that. So kind of, I'm looking, you always want to be one step ahead of them, always look forward. So August, like you guys say, you guys are putting cameras in it. And that's another thing you guys mentioned, is what right now it might look like shit. This is a terrible spot. And then you go back to maybe shed season and you mark that spot. There's a big scrape here, some rubs. And, you get into the summertime, if you don't have that spot marked, then like you said, this looks terrible. But then as the season progresses, it'll be better. But yeah, I try to get my cameras moved around August into September. And even through, so the last 7-8 years through, since I got an excavation business, I takes a lot of my time, like September into October, because I'm trying to get stuff done, because, it's kind of and that's kind of why I do that business anyways. It's more productive in the summer, and I have winter off to chase my deer, so, but I get kind of busy in October, and I don't get to hunt as much. And so I'm still kind of scouting, checking cameras, I'd like to do more October hunting, because I feel like now that a lot of guys are hunting public ground, um, they are focusing on that November, that rut, where these deer still don't have as much pressure in October, and they're just kind of, you can maybe, and they're fattening up for the winter. They're putting food, pounds on, and preparing. They're not into rut yet, so they're kind of preparing. So scrape hunting might be good. I'd like to get into more of that, to where you get into November, that drops off into like the peak of the rut, and that is more just chasing and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely get my cameras out, and I keep checking them, and I don't, until I get enough. So you got to find, like, these deer live with, these mature deer on this public ground, or just mature deer in general, live with a lot of the odds in their favor. They don't take a lot of chances. So you got to get an angle on these animals. And so I keep kind of following them. Maybe whether it's an individual mature deer, or I got a few of them on the line that I want to follow. And they're all individually different. Some of them are easier to kill, maybe follow. Whether it's their age, you're talking maybe a 2 to 4-year-old deer might be. I've followed deer that were real sporadic and wasn't real settled into where they want to live as a mature animal, and then some, you get to the 5, 6, 8-year-old, to where they're kind of settled in, to where they know things work for them, and everything's in their favor. But I get off track easy, because I start talking whitetails. I'll be like talking one thing, and then I just go this way, and I start going into the dust. Then I'm like, hey, what were you talking? So bear with me.
Oh, no, yeah.
It's like, I don't even know what we were talking about, but so much shit jumps in my head, all the places I had in information. It's like, this is good to tell, this is good for people to hear. But anyways, yeah, so the mature deer, and they're individually different, and some of them tend to be nomadic, and some of them are homebodies, just like humans. And sometimes you want to take a pick on which animal you want to hunt. It might not, like, I want the biggest rack buck out there, and that's just me, but he might not be the easiest one to kill, because what his lifestyle might be, just like people in general. If you were hunting a human, some people travel for work, and they're salespeople, when they go to different houses all over the tri-state area, or wherever you might live. And then some people go to their job and back every day. Which one's going to be easier to keen in on, how they live their life. So there is some association. I like to give analogies when I talk about deer, for people to understand how I see it, and I can relate to maybe a human doing the same thing. But yeah, trying to find, going back to getting the odds in your favor, you got to have something. You got to get an angle on that deer. You got to, I don't ever hope to kill a deer. I don't live my life on hopes, or whitetail hunting. I want to know what's going on, and in their area where they live. I want to know, just like them animals, how they live. They know what's going on. They know where the hunting pressures, they know where the foods are. They know where the does are. I'm the type of hunter that it's like, I want to know what's going on in my area, and not leave it up to a hope. When I was younger, I used to, like, read some sign and think, oh man, I hope this deer comes through. And I've learned a lot. I got a lot of experience, and to me, experience is that you've done it wrong enough to know what to do right. So I've sat in the wrong spots hoping on that deer to come. Endless hours that I wasted hoping. But now I kind of tend to put more time into scouting, and really, because when I was younger and we'd go out of state and I would hunt, and me and my buddies would kind of sneak and not want to put a lot of pressure on the deer, and find a spot. This is good. Let's get up in a tree and hunt there for 3-4 days. And then you get kind of burned out and you don't see much. And then you get down, you walk around, and you pick up a spot maybe 200 yards away. It's way better, so always know what's going on, whether it's hunting or scouting. And I kind of look at it like, a good analogy that I usually use is like a prosecution lawyer. Like, when he goes to court, before he goes to court, he knows all he can about his case. He doesn't go in hoping to win. Man, I hope I win. It's like, man, I know everything I could possibly know. Because with these animals, when you're hunting them, a mature deer, you don't have a lot of chances to be going in and hunting them. If you get that one chance, you go in and get after them. And that's usually your best time, you know, but know all you can before you make that move to go in and make that kill, you know. So in October with my business, I'm kind of busy. So lately, the last 6, 8 years, I've been still doing my scouting, kind of preparing for the rut, maybe checking. I would like to hunt that time of year, but I'm just not ready. I mean, my gear's not ready. I'm just not. I got so much going on. I'm such a busy person that it's just like I'm not ready. You know, if I didn't work so much in October, I would back it up and be ready, and you know, maybe back everything up a little bit. But so usually putting the cameras out and just checking them periodically, and I do get some daylight pictures and this and that, and but also like you want to talk about, you said the rut, preparing for, you know, the end of October, November, when I do usually take my time off. And then most people do, I think, because when you travel to different states, that's your best chances of seeing an animal, you know. And for like an all-day hunt, I mean, most of the time you're not going to travel to a different state and hunt all day, you know, in a tree in, you know, October early, you know, it just doesn't. And then the weather's warm, and a lot of places I go, you know, on public land, it's a heck of a hike. And, you know, sometimes you want to hunt like in October morning, evening, and it's just too much. It's like you want to get to that spot. That's why I kind of stick with November, and I got the time. It just kind of all works out easier for me. Not that I wouldn't want to hunt October, but you can kind of get in there and just set up for an all day. And I try to keep, you know, still, I'm always scouting. You know, my motto is scout more, hunt less, you know, then when you know you're in the right spot or the time is right, you get in a tree. But so like through October, checking scrapes, putting, you know, getting cameras on scrapes, getting close to doe bedding areas. And then I always like to see, I like to get daylight pictures of animals, because to me, that is telling me that they're on a hoof. They need to be moved. We're hunting at daytime. That's when we need to see these animals. So, you know, sometimes you don't want to get close to their bedding, and you can use a nighttime picture to kind of judge. But when I get them 2 a.m., 1 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., I just throw them away. It's like, it's inventory. The deer lives, but that don't mean nothing to me. I mean, I've seen deer travel a mile at night after dark, before daylight, to where they need to be. But so yeah, I try to focus on getting some daytime activity to know that these animals are comfortable and they're going to move through this area, you know. And so the rut can be crazy, and that's another reason I want to like start hunting October, because some of these, you know, when you get into the upper end of these mature deer, I've seen I followed enough deer and hunted them to where they'll still be nocturnal in through first 10 days of October, getting up like right before dark. I've seen it many a times, you know, so that makes things tough. And especially with their home range shrinking. But so I tend to I kind of want to learn the area like the deer themselves, know where the does are, know where the food is. And some areas are gradual, don't have a lot of topo. And it's not so much, you know, funnels. Just kind of get in around. They're going to go visit these does, and they know where they live. Maybe meet them at a scrape, but just kind of, they're going to be sad. And I find some of these mature bucks don't always associate with the rest of the herd. As I say, that's like a different species, you know, but they are in close a lot of the times during the rut, you know. They're satellite them animals, those. When, like I said, some areas that I've hunted have a lot of big, high population, to where the first doe in heat, you might see 5 bucks chasing her, and some of them mature deer don't even want to be involved with that. They're like, I'm not dealing with that BS, you know. So there's a lot goes into it. Like I said, I start talking one way, and a lot floods my brain, and but I'm hoping like what I say is good, valuable info that someone can pick out and be like, hey, this happened here, and so. But there's a lot of, and I do sometimes talk to people and do podcasts, and I catch myself contradicting myself, but it happens because I look at it like a balance scale, where you put the weight on the one side to make the scale fall, and then this situation you do that, but at another situation to make that other, you got to do the 180. You got to do a complete opposite.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, I don't want to tell you how to. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. I don't want you to get trapped in a tunnel vision, but I want you to use what I could give you as another tool in your toolbox. And I use that analogy a lot where I tell people is, hey, when I was younger, I had a little toolbox, couple wrenches, screwdrivers, and now I got a whole service truck of tools, crane, whatever you need. But that's how I look at my knowledge of the whitetail. I had a little bit, and I pick a little bit from each deer that I follow, or if I listen to someone, or like you said, putting a post up of a deer or a story that someone had, I try to stay away from this is how do you hunt a scrape, and people say about hunting a scrape this way, and just in general, I'm just throwing stuff out there. And, some deer I've seen, even in the summer, I got some mature deer that don't even visit. We're allowed to run mineral licks in PA for the deer. And I've seen mature deer don't even associate with some of these mineral licks. They'll just walk by them. So I put a camera to catch them. Or like even scrapes, I've seen some mature deer, I've seen some mature deer in areas where the population is a lot younger in their yearling and 2-year-old stage. Maybe some mature does that they don't even associate. They feel like they are other, and they don't even associate with. So they just kind of like roam through there as a satellite. I've seen them not even rub and scrape. You wouldn't even. I've seen some big deer on land that you don't even know existed.
Yeah, we've seen that. We have a lot of ground where if I took you into it, you'd be like, man, there's no buck sign in here at all. And I'd be like, dude, wait till November, man.
Yeah.
Wait till we pull these cams. You're going to be astonished what's in here. There's no sign at all anywhere.
You're right.
No rubs, no ground scrapes, no nothing. There's a lot of stuff I want to pull out real quick. One thing I think is really good to mention, we had mentioned it earlier, but, you want to hang a cam for October, November, and you want to do it now because you don't want to be in there. That's something that we're trying this year. We're running a lot more mobile cams. One, because we're busy like everybody else. We got kids. We're coaching flag football. We're working. Got a lot of stuff going on right now, and we're like, where do we want intel that we need it? We feel like we need it the most. Let's run a mobile there, and then we'll get the intel from the regular cams when we can. So we got those cams hung out for October right now, and those spots do not look good at all, like you were saying. If a guy walked in there, it is thick, nasty. There's no certain trail, but we had 5 shooter bucks there in daylight last year when there was a time period where we couldn't hunt there, and this year we can hunt there. There's 5 shooter bucks in there in daylight, and we have that intel now, and if we would have went in there during the summer right now and scouted that,
we'd turn around and walked out.
We'd have been like, okay, there's literally nothing here. Because even the old sign right now, those trees have grown back, and you could just barely see that stuff right now. So those guys that are out there scouting right now, if you've seen something in the past in an area and you get in there and you're thinking, man, maybe I should put a cam here. Maybe that was just a fluke or something. If they were there, there was a reason they were there, and that sign's going to kick back up again in that area. So like us, we just run the cams, and we hung them knowing that for 2 months, there's probably going to be nothing there. But when that velvet sheds, there's going to be a buck in that bed. It's just too convenient of a spot. There's going to be bucks using that area to bed, and we know that because we figured it out the last 2 years. So I thought that was good to mention. And then another thing, like you said, if on the scrapes, we've seen that too, where some deer are 100% in the scrapes, and it seems like it's per farm too, or per area. Like some areas, there's like I think of like Grant and Garrett's farm, all the time killing on scrapes, all the time killing, rattling, all the time killing on decoys. You just have to learn your deer. Some deer, like how many pictures do we have of Magnum on a scrape? 1.
Yeah.
How many scrapes we have pictures out there? We've had them on one picture of a scrape in 3 years. Like the deer just didn't put sign in that area a lot. He didn't like to. He might have signed somewhere else, but not in that area really.
And other than Chaos on the stealth cam up in the corner pinch, he's never been nose down in the scrape on the scrape.
He's never
tree.
hit the scrape.
He just is always strolling through. And like you were saying, John, is that buck age class there is younger. We're getting it up here to be more 2 and 3 year olds this year finally, and they're always out there sparring. I've got more trail cam pictures and videos of bucks fighting at that scrape tree than I have anywhere else that I've ever had a cam. And we got a 5.5-year-old, 6.5-year-old deer out there now, and he's just kind of hanging out off to the side, not really doing anything, just kind of enjoying the show. And it's not like he sees them fighting and then he's like, all right, I'm going to get in here, rough up the scrape, and, you know, let everybody know that I'm the big dog. He's just kind of hanging out, chilling, and that's just kind of his personality.
Yeah, he's always just kind of walking. He's, like you said, he hit that one scrape on the north one time. Other than that, and that was like we had just made that mock scrape, and it was fresh.
Right.
And he probably just went over there and was like, oh, I'll rough this up. But then you got like Bud Heavy, who was the opposite. He was kind of in there. You know, and it's weird. You can kind of tell, like, the frame of a deer. Is this deer going to be kind of a loner, or is he going to be like a rough and rowdy? It's kind of put because, you know, Bud Heavy, you could tell that deer was like a brute. He was in the shit. He was bumping deer away from does. And then, like you said, you got a buck like Chaos. So, like you said, so people say hunt the scrapes. You know, if you got a scrape in the area, that buck might come to it, and he's going to be frequenting that. That deer might not hit that scrape at all. That might be, like you said, a year-old, 2-year-old, because I got more pictures of 2-year-olds on scrapes this summer than I have ever had in my whole entire life. This summer, the scrapes on that farm have been insane. You got to see all the 2-year-olds that I don't send you.
Crazy.
Every day, 2-year-olds, like in the branches, you know, pawing at the ground already. Like, it's insane.
And I think that goes back to what John said, is knowing what is going on in the timber out there. Like, you have to know. And it's hard. I don't know how big the public land is that you're hunting, John, but it's hard if you don't have the inventory of cameras to get out there, or in your case as well, John, not enough time in October to be out there when they are hitting the scrapes to get that information. So it can take a while to get it figured out, especially if you're on a new piece or a bigger piece, to figure it out. But with the right time and effort, you can get a feel for it.
And the last thing that I want to state that I really like that you said was, you got to know everything about that ground. And I'm a sucker for that. Like, you got to know what's 150 yards or 200 yards, because you could be like, man, here's this sign, here's this pinch. They might work this pinch coming this way, or they might be pinching this way and getting in my wind. I can't hunt this on a northwest. I need a straight west. You can put together so much more pieces, just like we found all that hot sign, and we're like, okay, we're going to hunt at the South Public. We're going to hunt on the East Ridge or the West Ridge. We get up there, there's a stand. Yeah. If we wouldn't have went another 150 yards, we'd have no idea that there's a camera and a stand there. We would have been hunting back, and then potentially, like you said, had a guy come in on us because we didn't know that it was there. So knowing your ground, you don't have to be 100%, but knowing if you're going to hunt that area, if you pick this 100-acre block that you're really going to target, really know that 100-acre block. Scout that thing. Scout it in the winter. Scout it in the summer. Scout it during hunting season, and understand what you got going on. And then, like you said, take those little pieces from all your years, like you were saying, and then combine it where you got this giant toolbox on this 100-acre spot. And you're like, okay, well, this buck 2 years ago did this, working this ridge. There's a pretty good chance that this deer is going to do that. I'm going to give that a shot. So I think that's a tip that a lot of people, like you said, they go in, they find the sign. Okay, I'm on the hot sign, I'm setting up. But they have no idea what's 200 yards or 100 yards. Right. And then if you're out of state, you go in there, like you said, you hunt that spot for 3 days, then you got a 5-day trip. 3 of your days are blown, and then the 5th day you're on the best sign you've had, and you're like, shit, I should have been here the whole time. So that was... Yeah,
and going back to the scrape, that deer that Bo shot last year, there was a big community scrape on a point, and I put a cell cam and run it. And November, I put my buddy in there, and he hit a deer. We never found it. It took, actually, he was zeroed in on it, but it took a step and hit it in the liver, or maybe a little further back. We never found that deer. But anyways, the deer that Bo got was living right there in the area. I run that camera on that community scrape, probably put it out there early October. Or mid-October, I think I went up for one time mid-October and found this big community scrape. I said, oh, man, I'll get that buck here. And I had him a couple times, once or twice, nighttime. That was it. And it wasn't like he stayed there and put all kind of scent down. Then my buddy went in there in November and hit that deer. And fast forward 4 weeks into December, and I'm like, I called my buddy Greg. I said, Greg, did you hit that big deer with them big long brows? No, it wasn't. I said, it was like 150, 160. He's like, no, I don't think so. I said, because I haven't got him on camera. I know he lives right there. So yeah, fast forward 4 weeks, and we go in there and push it. And I mean, he shoots the deer. It must have been, it hadn't have been more than 250, 200 yards from that scrape when we bumped it. So that tells you right there, he lives right there, and he doesn't even want to mess with that.
Never went to that scrape. We're learning that more and more. There's like some of these deer have a solid line that unless they're on a doe or get bumped, they're just not comfortable crossing. They just don't know what's up there, or they don't like what's up there. So they're just like, all right, this is my comfort zone line. And we've seen that where like, okay, we're getting a few pictures over here of him, and then you move, like we get no daylight pictures of him on top, but in the hot corner, daylight picture. You're like, what? That's 150 yards away. Like we've never had a daylight picture of him in 3 years, 150 yards away, running 5 cams in that circle area. You're like, you got to have a daylight, and then 150 yards away, daylight picture. So like I said, it's just a hard line.
I think that hard line you talk about, I always talk about is like a seam. Find that seam. Like these deer run that seam, what's comfortable, and it doesn't have to be a trail, doesn't have to be, just got to feel right to them. And I learned enough about these deer that I get a feeling. I put myself out there, and I spend, I don't know how much times in the last 30 years hiking and learning and just zigzagging the woods and ask myself questions, but they kind of feel it, and it feels right. And whether he was bumped.
He got muted there real quick.
Technical difficulties. He'll be coming back in.
He's working
on it.
He's working on it.
Probably got a call. Yeah.
I had a call.
Yeah, figured. That's all right. No big deal. That's normal stuff for us.
That seam is what I look for, and it's not so much. It's just where nobody maybe, and I've learned it could be where maybe a private borders public, and maybe it's like a little rectangular piece of public going over here to where nobody's going to go there. You just got to, and they're like satellite animals, and they roam, and they don't even, associate with the rest of the population. And then it's like association. So I think like maybe in that one area, he's been bumped, he smelled humans there. He's like, oh, and that's it. I'm not taking another chance. They don't take chances with their life.
I like that, the seam. We're always on the edge. Yeah. We need to be in the seam. Like we can find the edge, but we're always, and it seems, we're always 150 yards not deep enough. That's what it is. We're always 150, 200 yards off. Like we're just right there, But like you said, it's just time in the woods and seeing deer do stuff and getting all that trail cam data and reading the sign. Because now, I think hunting public, it definitely made me a better hunter than hunting private. But you go somewhere, and like we found that bed on private. And you're in the past on the new lease. In the past, would you have went to that bed, and if you wouldn't have hunted public, would you have been like, all right, I can access here, but he'll see me? Or would you have been like, okay, this is a buck bedding area. There's a buck bedded in here.
Yeah, I would have just 6 years, I'd be like, all right, there's a pretty good sized buck probably.
Yeah, there's rubs here, he's bedding here. But now, since you've been out there and you're thinking, okay, we're right when we were both like, well, we can't even access this tree stand if there is something in here. Mm-hmm. So it's gonna have to be like a morning spot. Like if you go in there in the evening, you're gonna bump that deer out. So, hunting that public and having to read new sign, because I feel like on the private it's consistent sign. There's a scrape here, there's a scrape over here every year. You run a cam on it, the deer on it. But public is always changing. Like you said, in November you get that pressure and they could push deer. We had guys setting up 150 yards from us last year that never had happened to us the years before. We got more guys coming down in the bottom. So you gotta move and find new areas. And then with private, you're just limited in a box of, you're only going to see deer do so much stuff. When you go on a big piece of public and you're hunting, how many different spots did we hunt last year? I don't even know.
Yeah.
50? Like, I mean, you're all over the place. So you're watching deer do different stuff. and you get to learn so much more than in that box, you know.
And other than just the sheer size of that bed, like we asked ourselves, like, okay, like why is this deer bedding here?
Yeah.
It's on a little flat. And it's got 2 drops offs on either side. He's got 2 good exit routes. It's right down from a little hayfield, right south of a bean field, and he's got really good cover, and he can see.
Yeah.
And he's going to be able to smell what's behind him. So I mean, it's got everything that.
Yeah, and
it
then
meets
like
all the
just like he
boxes.
was saying, if we didn't go and circle around and then come back in on the back side of that bed, we would never would have found that other giant bed, you know, on just right out there on the edge of that hayfield. That summertime bed where we're like, oh, this is a monster bed. Like there's something been in here recent, and that's just like you said, just we got a new lease and we decided that we were going to walk literally every inch of that thing. Right now, when we feel like we're not bumping deer, we jumped hella deer out of there.
Yeah, eight deer.
8 deer, two shooter bucks. So I was like, that's a pretty good day, you know. And but we know now we don't have to do that. We know the ground, but we do need to walk it in season, and like you said, get that sign in season. So
Yeah, and that's when your even postseason comes in and get, like you said, December, January. But then I think a big thing is accessing. Like, I know just a quick story here. My guy I know was getting a cell cam picture of a 160-inch deer and public ground, and it was like a hollow where the road went up along the creek, and he was hunting the left side, and the right side you weren't allowed to hunt. So he was determined to hunt that scrape in the right wind or whatever and get that deer. So he went down there in November, and I don't know if he got daylight pitch. I don't know what happened, but he got in there and he would hunt that deer in November on that scrape, and he wore himself out 4 days, park, go up there and hunt. And I think the 5th day, he's like, I got to move. And then he goes somewhere else, and then that deer's on that scrape in the daylight. He's like, man, you got to help me find this deer. I'm like, hey, he's laying on that other hillside. It was kind of a steep hollow, you know. I said, he hears you park your vehicle and walk up in there. You think he's going to go over there? I mean, it's like,
yeah,
come on, you know what I mean? It's like, and I see that a lot where deer, I'm like, whoa, sometimes the deer do hang out near the road, especially around the morning, you know, because they want to know what's going on. Just like I said, I keep talking about knowing. They want to know what's going on. And you get guys drive up the road, slam the door, get out, and he's like, oh, you know, and they'll just lay down all day, won't move. They just, you know what I mean? But
yeah, I've heard multiple people say that, you know, the deer are seeing me on the way in, and then they backdoor them, and that's what makes it come together. So you got to see, like you said, you got to know. I like that term, you know, don't guess, because I feel like a lot of our sets are, all right, we might be in the right area. It's good.
You're kind of hoping.
Yeah, but we're kind of hoping and poking, you know, and we're not like, okay, we know that's what kind of our style this year is going to be. We're just going where we know there's been deer in the past and we've seen good stuff in the past. We're not, I called it being cute. We're not trying to be cute. Like, oh, what if this happens and then this happens? And, you know, we're just going, this is it. We know that we got a good chance in here instead of let's hope over here that something happens.
And I will say the last 2 weeks we did start off really good, having hunts of really high odds.
Yeah.
We were going in literally.
Yeah, the first 2 weeks of season last year, I thought we were smashing early. Every hunt we went in, we were slow, strategic, hanging perfect. Everything was going good. The weather October was extremely cold last year. It's beautiful. You know, and every hunt we went into like, all right, this is going to be it. And then we got that hot weather stretch. And we were like, shit, we're not going to see anything anyway. So we kind of lost our mojo and we didn't want to go in the good shit because it was hot. But you got to go in there in November, you know? So live and learn, man. You got to, but like you said, just you know, talking and rambling on all about that whitetail stuff's clicking in my head of all the stuff that I'm relating to. Just like you said, it's good intel that anybody can use. And that's why we record this podcast is, if one thing pops out and that guy's like, oh shit, maybe I should try this.
Maybe I should try to get in the seam.
Yeah, maybe I should try to get in the seam.
Yeah, find that seam, and that's how I can relate to it. And don't wear yourself out, like you said. I've learned in the past that, you know, I would hunt these different states. I'd travel to one state and the next state, and I would force myself to hunt, whether I was there 7 days every day, or even now, because because you got to walk that fine line to kill that mature animal. You know, you got to give him what he needs to move, what his wind or maybe cover or something, or but if you're yeah, give him his odds, but find that angle on him. But when you're getting into your spots, like I said, the access or just hunting in general, you're walking that fine line. So you got to, sometimes I'll get to my stand and I feel like most of the time, whether it's before daylight, evening, I get to the stand, I'm like, I made it, because it's like, I'm in close, I'm in tight on him. I mean,
Yeah.
because that's where he lives. That's where he feels comfortable. You know, there are them funnels or whatever you're talking about, rut maybe, that you might catch them. But in general, these mature deer are pretty sly and they're not crazy, but you can mess it up going in and they know their area and they know what's there. And if, you know, if you're putting your stand up, make a little noise or just the wind goes the wrong way, or sometimes I don't like getting in there. There's times where there's different situations, but I like going in maybe just after daylight so I could see if I jump him or if he's here. In different situations, there's other times I want to maybe get in before daylight and wait him. But don't wear yourself out, because you're going to make a mistake, and that mistake is what's going to cost you. You know, like if you got the 5 days, 6 days to hunt, scout the 3 days, or say you're really keen on one spot and you hunt it 3 or 4 days, and you're getting up at 4 a.m. and you're doing this, it's taxing on you, you know, mentally, physically, to where you could just half-ass something just a hair and it's just going to screw you up, you know. And I've done that. I've experienced that, to where I'm like, I ain't trying to be no tough guy. I'm like, hey, I'm just taking the day off. I'm just taking the whole day off. I've been hunting 7 days straight, you know, drink a couple beers, you know, get up, eat breakfast, sleep in. And then it's kind of like changes your mind frame to, it's like, kind of got mad at myself. Like, what are you doing? You're a hunter. You ain't tough. You're out, you're sitting here eating breakfast and everybody's out, you know. It's like, but then it kind of like recharges your batteries and gets you back after them. But when you're going after them animals, that's why I say no all you can. Don't hope for it, and get in there. And a lot of times you know, if you know the area well enough, you're going to walk in that fine line where that deer, you're going to give him the odds he needs to survive, but you still got to find that angle on him, you know. So, and that's another reason I have several spots, maybe one animal I'm hunting or several deer in general, to where you might just need a change of scenery, or you might mess something up here, and it don't bother me. Like if I go into a public piece of ground and I see guys, one buddy of mine, he gets so mad, and there was a guy parked in a spot, like, or where he's hunting. I'm like, dude, it's public ground. He's allowed to be there. I'm like, it don't bother me, because I guarantee I know more than this area than that guy does. And I guarantee that animal probably knows he's there. There's few guys out there that are being successful in doing this, and they're the ones that do it differently and that. But and the deer themselves find them seams and travel in them safe areas, corridors, or whatever you might call it, that nobody bumps them. And I've learned that years ago, where I grew up, and where I grew up, as they built more houses, industrial, like the land that we hunted got smaller, and we thought we knew the land. I'm talking about like a 200-acre piece of land that now it's all houses. But I remember we thought we knew the area. Like, we put drives on, we hunted it in here. I bumped a deer in a rain, and I followed him just from him when he ran, kicking up the leaves. And he run down to this little triangle piece of land in between two roads, and maybe an acre or two. And it was kind of like a hump. So the roads were like down low, and there was like a hump of ground. And I was like inward, like walking toward that hump in that road. And there was like an old railroad bed that before that hump, it was like a 40-foot straight down drop off. And so the deer ran to that edge, and I followed his tracks. He ran down to the railroad bed and up that hump. I'm looking across that railroad bed. That hump's over there 100 yards. And I was just like, oh, he went across the road. And then, you know, I went like years later, when they took the 200 acres out and built houses a couple years later, that was like a spot that, like, he knew that I wasn't going to cross that ditch, that railroad bed to get over there. It was like, that was that little seam or little pocket, I would call it, or, like a little nook, like a nook and cranny. Like a little nook was always there. And he probably didn't even cross the road. He just sat over there, some briars, and I'm like, man, that little 1 acre, 2 acre, whatever it was. I was like, nobody ever goes over there. So, and we thought we knew the area so good. So now I look at areas and I try to find, there's that one spot that they're using that nobody really, it's a dumb spot, whether it's like at steep hill. I'm like, I'm not going down there. He's just going to run across the road. But that was his last line of defense, was going across the road. He probably didn't. That was it. And just, he could stand, look across, and then dive across the road. But it was like, I thought I knew the area so well that I grew up hunting there. I know, and then when they started tearing the woods down, then these little nooks would pop up, because that was what was left where they didn't build houses. Like, oh, and I was into hunting suburb. I used to hunt people's damn near backyards. I did that. But I like getting out in the bigger land, the public land. But I keep that in the back of my head, that there is these little nooks out there that these deer are hanging out or gravitating to, that, you think you know the area, but how well do you know it? Like, they live there day and night. So I try to find that on these public ground,
just like a lot of people we talk to say, like big deer, like bass fishing,
Yeah.
100% of the fish are in 10% of the water. It's just like the big deer, 100% of the big deer are in 10% of the woods. They're not covering a lot of the woods, especially in daylight. Like you said, you find that little crease, that little crevice, that seam. I like the seam. We're going to start using that. We got to get in the seam.
Yeah.
We got to get in the zone, is what we always say. We got to get in the zone, but I like the seam. Got to get in.
But you're exactly right there. The daytime is where they're going to be spending their time, or when they travel, we're going to travel in this seam, and you can eliminate. And I'm just like thinking of, I start talking. There's so many situations I've been in, and that things, you use a different tool. One situation, you got a 12 millimeter wrench for this bolt, and it's, hey, how come I used a 14 millimeter there? It's a different bolt. I got to use a different wrench. But I just think when people ask me questions, I got so many situations. I just kind of reflect on things that happen to me that make me find, there are these spots. If they're living, they're in that nook or in that seam where they're doing the same thing religiously. If they've been, and some of these deer get so confident that they'll actually slip up because they're so cool. They know it. They got these hunters pegged. They know what's happening. They're like, yeah. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's almost like they're too good for, you know what I mean? And I find a lot are kind of that way, to where it's too easy for them.
Yeah, they're so comfortable not getting hunted in that area, that they're just chill. They're thinking, okay, this is my spot. Yeah, never seen anybody in here, and never smelled anybody.
Figured out they all, and there's times that I've talked in other podcasts where sometimes I'd go to a piece of public land that maybe I didn't have a lot of cameras, or and I get into November, and I'll just kind of damn near run through the woods, walk fast, and take mental notes. I'm talking like November 12th, 14th, guys been pounding it, maybe after a rain. I use everything you can. If you get to an area where you're seeing deer tracks, well, apparently nobody's been hunting here the last 2 weeks. Or then I get a spot where I see a guy's been walking to the same tree and hunting there, and you got to go a couple hundred yards, and you can really learn.
It's crazy. You can see those trails where people are going to their stand repeatedly. You're like, man, this isn't a deer trail. Like, you can see, okay, this guy cuts off, he takes a right, and then you're like, and the markers. I love the markers, dude.
I hate
God,
that. Yeah.
If you got a marker out there, I know you kind of get to your stuff in the dark, but you were literally telescoping, okay, there's a dude hunting over here. Like, if it's a good spot, I guess, but you're literally, like, letting people know where you're hunting at.
Hey, some of them guys got markers every 2 feet, and me, I try to intimately know the woods to where I'm like, I don't even need markers. I'll walk through the dark with a headlamp.
That's what I do.
See how good I am. Yeah. And here, I did it last year. I went up this big hollow. It went a mile. I went all the way up here, and I'm like, I don't even, I'm just going to follow this hollow all the way up. It was rugged, steep, rocky. It was real tough terrain. And I said, I know my stand. I'm going to hunt at the head right where it peters out. I'm getting up in a tree. So I really didn't. I just needed to kind of follow the hollow. And well, here it was. I was kind of, before I jumped in a hollow, I was going up the left side of the hollow. But I guess before I jumped in it wide. And I'm talking like mountainous, big country.
Oh, shit.
It wide. So I got in one ditch. I got down in that hollow in that crevice in that ditch. And here I was going up the left side. I wasn't going up the main one with my stand. And I was going up before daylight and coming out at dark. And I was going up that one hollow. And like I said, I jumped in the it wide off. So I was on the left side and I jumped in and I was in the wide. So I went up this hollow and I'm like, and you do the same little trail for a couple of days. You kind of recognize, you see where you slipped. And I'm like, I was getting there. I'm like, something don't look right here. I don't remember this. And I got to the top and I looked at I was looking at then I pulled out my phone. I looked at my pin. I'm like, oh man, I had a 45-minute hike and I'm a half a mile from where I want to be. And I got to walk through, like the deer were coming from, I was to the west and it was I needed to be to the east. And I said, I just walked the ridge, just like, man, it took me like, I was sweating and I just like, oh man, like you said, the tacks and that, I usually pull them out. I don't even want to see that stuff.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I love that. But I could think of a couple, the South Public Land, man, it's just, there must be so many guys that hunt the same spot over and over and over. You can just see the trails. And you're like, this is not a deer trail. This sucker's wide. They've been cutting branches back. Nice as hell to walk down.
Yeah.
Then you can tell. And the deciding factor there is one hill. Like people say, one hill. If you make it up that one hill, you've literally lost 90% of the people on that piece. Yeah. That's not the other piece, though.
No. Yeah.
The close public, those guys are psycho on there. The people that hunt that are... They're crazy for whitetails. The people that are hunting back where we are, and there's a lot of people that are going back there, but the other public, complete opposite. One hill gone. They see the power line cut. They're like, oh shit, I'm gonna stop right here. This looks good to me. I'm like, dude, I'm 1,000 yards away from this thing. This thing is a red sign for no daylight deer activity anywhere. But
yeah, that's. And I use that to my advantage. That's why I like being around. The pressure don't bother me. I'm like, okay, that'll cinch them down.
Yeah.
To where I'll know where to start looking. Like you guys said.
You just got to figure out, like you said, that little crevice, that little spot. A lot of good one-liners in here. Find that crevice, know and don't hope. And and find that seam.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be deep in that seam, shoulder deep in that deep. I want to be doggy paddling in there, keeping my head above water. I'm so in the seam. But hey, man, we appreciate you coming on tonight. Some great whitetail content. I know that our listeners got some value from it, so we appreciate it, man.
Yeah, and if you guys want to, I tell people, just shoot me a message at Johnny Stewart or the Johnny Stewart on Instagram. I'm trying to help people out the best I can. And I want to mention this year I'm going to work with my buddy Bill. He's creating, I don't know if you guys heard about Spartan Forge.
Yeah, we've had Bill on. Yeah, so I'm super excited. Yeah, I'm super excited.
Right. I didn't get to listen to that.
Yeah,
my man Bill. So I'm anxious to work with him, and that's going to help me, I think, just decide when to hunt. You can do your scouting there, and he's just, I call him the deer scientist, the mad scientist.
Yeah. Anybody that hasn't checked out Spartan Forge, check that out. And then new stuff that he's got coming out, dude, that's going to change the game. Yeah. I know people say a lot change the game, but that is legit going to change the game for new hunters that don't understand bedding and where deer might be and, what deer might be feeding on. Stuff like that, that's going to literally change the game for what people can do. Yeah.
So, I'm excited to check that out and work with him there, so.
All right, guys, really enjoyed this episode talking to Johnny. Like I said, guys, super knowledgeable, hunting pretty much all public land, still getting it done year after year, different states, going to Iowa, getting it done on giants, hunting PA, hunting Ohio. Follow this guy on Instagram. Like I said, he's always sharing some really good trail cam pics and kind of breaking it down what the deer are doing. Really enjoy that. And he's always on some slammers on the trail cams, too. They're always giant, so I like to see giant deer.
For sure.
And see, this deer's in daylight, and he's talking about why he thinks he's in daylight and stuff's pretty cool. So, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Like always, try to do the right thing, try to leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy is out.